Have you ever felt this way? Everything seems to be going smoothly. Lively conversations, deep exchanges that make you think. Maybe this time, it's real. She takes the initiative, shows care, and sends words that stir something inside your chest. Then, suddenly, like a shock, everything stops. No messages, no explanation, just a cold silence and lingering questions in your head. You go back to the chat, read it over and over again, trying to figure out what you did wrong. You send another message, and then one more, only to be met with nothing but emptiness. Or maybe she doesn't vanish completely. Instead, she becomes inconsistent, tender today, distant tomorrow. One moment she sends a heart emoji. The next, she leaves you alone in the conversation. That ambiguity leaves you confused, questioning everything, even blaming yourself. The truth is, silence or inconsistency is not always accidental. Sometimes, a woman creates distance to observe your reaction, not to hurt you, but to see whether you have the composure, the self-command, or if you'll panic, rush in, and lose yourself the moment you're tested. If you respond emotionally, sending message after message, asking questions, trying to calm your fears, you unintentionally put yourself in a weaker position, not only in her eyes, but in your own sense of dignity. This article doesn't teach you how to win in love. It teaches you how to master yourself in the most emotionally fragile moments. With 10 sharp, grounded principles inspired by Stoic philosophy, you'll learn how to become a man no one can manipulate, not with words, not with silence, but through clarity and inner strength. Let Light of Wise Elders be your guide in this journey, where you'll not only find steadiness in love, but also in your entire life. Subscribe to the channel today to receive insightful, grounded, and masculine reflections that walk with you on the path to becoming the strongest version of yourself. Now, let's go straight into the first principle. Principle 1. Don't let emotion take the lead. In relationships, emotion is often a powerful driver, but it can also be a skillful deceiver. When she suddenly goes quiet after days of engaging conversations, you may feel a deep emptiness, as if you've just been left mid-journey without warning. A read message sits unanswered all day, and your mind starts spinning. Did I do something wrong? Instinct pushes you to act, to send another text, to search for hidden meaning in the silence, even to imagine the worst scenarios. But the very moment you let emotion take the wheel, you've already handed over control. A grounded man does not allow fleeting emotions to dictate his actions. Emotion is a signal, not a command. It lets you know you're experiencing something, confusion, insecurity, disappointment, but it doesn't get to decide your next move. When she pulls away, doesn't respond, or turns cold, you still have a choice. Instead of frantically texting to soothe your anxiety, pause and observe. Ask yourself, is this really worth losing my composure over? A mature man is aware of what he feels, but doesn't let those feelings run the show. He acts based on values and direction, not fear of losing a connection. Sending another message, calling repeatedly, or obsessively analyzing her silence won't make you more attractive. On the contrary, it exposes the fact that your behavior is driven by insecurity. And, whether intentionally or not, women can sense this. When you react impulsively, you're sending the message, I'm easy to sway. Sometimes, a woman pulls back not to hurt you, but to test if you can maintain your center or crumble under pressure. If you step forward every time she steps back, you've entered someone else's frame of control. Emotional self-control is the foundation of unshakable masculinity. Imagine yourself as a solid pillar in the middle of a storm. No matter how violently the wind blows, you remain upright, unshaken. When she's silent, don't chase. Stick to your rhythm. Go to the gym, work, read, do what you do. Don't let an unanswered message disrupt your world. Stillness isn't coldness. It's the ability to feel your emotions without being ruled by them. A self-possessed man isn't someone who never feels unsure. He's someone who doesn't let uncertainty decide what he does next. By not letting emotion lead the way, you become the man who cannot be easily steered. You don't need to be emotionless or pretend to be indifferent. You just need to learn to pause, to breathe, and to remind yourself, I choose how I respond, not my emotions, not someone else's behavior. When you can stand firm in that, you not only keep the respect of others, you keep your own. Principle 2. Recognize behavioral patterns. In relationships, Not every action carries a clear meaning. Silence doesn't always mean indifference. And attention isn't always sincere. Sometimes you receive sweet messages, filled with heart emojis, that make you think things are going well. But the next day, she disappears. No explanation, no apology. Then, out of nowhere, a playful little message appears. Someone looked at me today, but I could only think of you. You respond warmly, showing interest, and just as quickly, she pulls away again. This isn't always random. It's a rhythm, a behavioral pattern. Some call it push-pull, others call it breadcrumbing. Either way, recognizing this pattern is essential if you don't want to get caught in emotional games. To spot behavioral rhythms, you have to observe rather than react instinctively. When her attitude shifts from warm to cold, from close to distant, don't panic or rush to fix it. Step back and ask, does she genuinely want a connection? Or am I just a backup option? Was her early affection real? Or was it just a spark before pulling away? These questions help you see the bigger picture. Instead of getting swept away by isolated signals, women, whether intentionally or subconsciously, may use these rhythms to see how you respond. If you react quickly, show insecurity, or try to please her, you've unknowingly stepped into her script. Emotional manipulation rarely happens in words. It happens through repeated behavior. A man who's aware doesn't get dragged into every emotional shift. Instead of texting endlessly to draw her back in, he pauses and evaluates. Is this a one-off or a repeating pattern? Is she being consistent or simply testing my patience? By analyzing the situation rather than reacting, you stay clear-headed and break free from emotional loops. Even if she's not playing games intentionally, vague and unstable behavior can still knock you off balance. If you're too reactive, rather than fall into the trap, respond with neutrality and clarity. You could say, I appreciate consistency. If you need space, that's fine, but I don't respond to mixed signals. That sentence doesn't accuse, it doesn't blame. It simply states your standard. You're not trying to win or prove anything. By refusing to engage in the push-pull rhythm, you force others to rethink how they interact with you. That not only helps you keep your position, it also shows you're a man who cannot be easily pulled into someone else's emotional patterns. Most importantly, recognizing behavioral rhythms helps you decide whether the relationship is worth continuing. If ambiguity repeats itself too often, it's no longer a test. It's a sign of disrespect. A grounded man doesn't try to change others. He chooses people who match his values. By observing and analyzing, you stay in control. You no longer act according to someone else's hidden script. You write your own. Principle 3. Set boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls meant to shut others out. They are declarations of self-worth, anchors that help you stay grounded in every relationship. Many men fear that setting boundaries will make them seem rigid or push the other person away, so they stay quiet, tolerate disrespect, like last-minute cancellations, vague replies, or inconsistent behavior, all in the name of keeping the peace, or assuming she must be busy. But this kind of leniency isn't noble. It's the fast track to losing yourself. A grounded man understands that boundaries don't diminish attraction. They cultivate respect. Setting boundaries starts with knowing exactly what you want and what you will not accept. When she repeatedly cancels plans without explanation or sends confusing signals that leave you feeling lost, don't stay silent just to keep it smooth. Speak clearly and calmly. I respect both of our time, so I'd appreciate it if you let me know in advance when plans change, or I'm not a fit for unclear connections. If you need space, that's okay, but I don't stay in half-built dynamics. These aren't ultimatums. They're honest expressions of your standards. Reminders that you won't allow yourself to be undervalued. Boundaries don't need to be expressed with force or threats. They're shown through consistency. If you say you won't tolerate repeated cancellations, stand by that. If you continue to meet up cheerfully after being treated with disregard, you're silently communicating, I don't really have standards. A woman may be drawn to your looks or charm, but she will only truly respect you when she sees that you have clear limits. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about defining when you're willing to walk away if your core values are crossed. Setting boundaries is also how you protect your self-respect. When you accept behavior that makes you feel uncomfortable, being ignored in conversation, receiving sarcastic jabs, or dealing with unpredictable affection, you're telling yourself that your peace doesn't matter. A grounded man isn't afraid of being called too strict. He knows that lasting attraction doesn't come from endless tolerance, but from showing, I know what I deserve, and I won't stay where I'm disrespected. If she tests your boundaries, the way you uphold them will speak louder than any argument. Ultimately, boundaries don't just protect you. They shape the entire relationship. When you set your standards and stick to them, you force others to adjust how they engage with you. If they can't respect your boundaries, that's a clear sign that the relationship isn't worth pursuing. A man with boundaries doesn't just keep his dignity. He becomes someone others think twice before underestimating. Boundaries don't make you lose her. They ensure you never lose yourself. Principle 4. Stay calm when provoked. Calmness isn't a natural state you fall into when everything is smooth. It's a form of power that reveals itself when you're being tested. When she unexpectedly brings up an ex, throws in a sarcastic jab like, "You're not like the last guy. Are you?" or starts acting cold without explanation, your instincts may urge you to fight back. You might feel the urge to argue for clarity, demand answers to soothe your anxiety, or withdraw in silence just to prove a point. But every time you react from a place of anger or hurt, you unintentionally reveal your weakness, that you're easily led. Calmness is your sharpest weapon. It puts you in control of the moment rather than being pulled into it. True calmness is emotional discipline. When someone tries to provoke you, breathe slowly. Speak with a grounded voice. Maintain steady eye contact, not evasive, not hostile. When she makes a passive-aggressive remark, you don't need to defend yourself. You could simply smile and say, "Sounds like there's still some old stuff lingering. Want to talk about it?" And then steer the conversation elsewhere. A response like that, neutral, unbothered, unfazed, shows that you didn't take the bait. Calmness isn't emotional detachment. It's self-possession. It tells the other person they cannot pull you into their chaos. When you react emotionally, you lose your position. Yelling, calling repeatedly to seek explanations, or showing jealousy doesn't make you authentic the way you think it does. It sends one clear message: I'm easily manipulated. A woman, whether consciously or not, will sense this. And once she sees that you can't manage your emotions, she begins to lose respect, because in her eyes, a man who can't control his emotional responses can't lead in a relationship. On the other hand, when you remain calm, you send a different message entirely. I choose how I respond. My emotions don't control me, and neither does anyone else. Calmness is the most strategic counterpunch. It breaks the script. When she, consciously or not, tries to push your buttons, she expects you to snap, argue, get jealous, or try to win her back. But when you don't give the reaction she anticipated, it forces her to rethink. He's not reacting. He's in control. Silence, when used wisely, can be a powerful reply, not as punishment, but as a clear signal that you don't need to perform to prove your worth. That kind of calm not only protects your mind, it makes you stand apart as someone who cannot be pulled into every emotional game. Training yourself to stay calm is how you develop inner power. You don't need to win every argument, have the last word, or hurt her to reclaim your ground. You just need to stay composed, observe, and choose your response based on your values. When you do that, you're not just passing a test. You're becoming the kind of man no one dares to test again. A man who remains calm in the middle of an emotional storm is the kind of man others eventually respect, whether they admit it or not. Principle 5. Focus on your mission. There's a magnetic power in a man who is deeply anchored in his mission. It's not just about having a job or chasing financial success. It's about knowing why you wake up each day. What do you want to build? What legacy do you want to leave behind? When a man moves through life without this inner compass, he becomes easy to sway, chasing women for validation, overthinking every text, shrinking himself just to be liked. But when you are focused on a meaningful path, you naturally become more grounded, more selective, and far less reactive. You stop asking, "Does she like me?" and start asking, "Does this connection support who I'm becoming?" Your mission doesn't have to be grand in the eyes of others. It just has to matter deeply to you. Maybe it's writing a book, starting a small business, becoming a mentor to someone who reminds you of your younger self. Whatever it is, when you pour your time and energy into something meaningful, you stop seeking your worth from external approval. You stop waiting for her to reply in order to feel valuable. Your energy shifts. You become more attractive, not because you're trying to be, but because you're already fulfilled. Women can sense that A man on a mission has a glow that no designer outfit or polished pickup line can replicate. Staying mission-driven also gives you clarity in relationships. You stop entertaining situations that drain you or distract you from your growth. If someone keeps you in a loop of confusion, canceling plans, testing your limits, showing up only when convenient, you see it for what it is: noise. You don't fight to be understood. You don't chase clarity. You simply return to your mission, not with bitterness, but with full presence. That presence is power. It tells the world, I'm not here to be played with. I'm building something bigger than this moment. This doesn't mean you can't love deeply. It means you don't lose yourself in love. A man who is mission-focused can give generously his time, his care, his attention, but he never abandons his path. He understands that any relationship that demands he drop his purpose isn't love, it's control, and he chooses alignment over attachment. When you live like that, you don't have to chase women. The right woman will recognize your depth and want to walk beside you, not in front, not behind, but alongside the man who knows where he's going. In the end, your mission isn't something you fit in between relationships. It's the backbone of who you are. It gives you direction when emotions are high. It grounds you when things fall apart, and it makes you unshakable in a world that constantly pulls at your focus. A man without a mission drifts. A man with a mission leads. And the moment you choose to honor your path above all distractions, you stop being just another option and become the standard. Principle 6. Master eye contact and body language. Before you speak a word, your body speaks for you, and often it says more than you intend. Your eye contact, your posture, the way you enter a room or respond to silence, these all reveal how you see yourself. A man who lacks confidence often overcompensates, puffing his chest, avoiding eye contact, constantly fidgeting. On the other hand, a man grounded in himself doesn't need to perform. He doesn't try to look powerful. He simply is. And that quiet presence, the way he holds eye contact without flinching, the way he moves with deliberate calm, creates an invisible tension, one that women notice long before you say a single word. Eye contact, when used with intention, is a gateway to connection. It tells her, I see you, fully. But it also says something even more important. I'm not afraid to be seen. Most men either stare too hard, trying to impress, or look away too soon, revealing insecurity. True masculine eye contact is steady, relaxed, and present, not invasive, not timid. You're not trying to dominate. You're not trying to seduce. You're simply there, fully. And in a world filled with distraction and performative attention, that kind of presence is rare. It disarms her. It makes her pause. It shifts the tone of the entire interaction. Your body language follows the same principle. Sit with your shoulders open. Stand with your feet grounded. Speak with your hands when needed. But don't fidget. Pause before you reply. Breathe slowly when emotions rise. These micro movements say, I am not threatened. I do not chase approval. I am comfortable in my own skin. You're not doing it to impress her. You're doing it because this is who you are when you stop performing. And, ironically, that's when you become most magnetic. Women aren't drawn to loud displays of dominance. They're drawn to the man who moves like he doesn't need to prove anything. Most communication is nonverbal. You can say all the right words. But if your posture says fear, your eyes say desperation, your hands betray nervousness, she'll sense it immediately, and she won't trust it. Not because she's judging, but because it feels unsafe. A woman needs to feel emotionally safe to connect, and nothing builds that safety like a man whose gaze is steady, whose breath is calm, whose presence is solid. You don't need to impress her mind when your body already says, I'm enough. In the end, mastering eye contact and body language isn't about learning tricks. It's about stripping away what's false. It's about being fully in your body, fully in the moment, fully with her. And when you can do that, not from a place of performance, but from truth, you don't have to chase connection. You become it. Principle 7. Stay calmer when things get tenser. A woman doesn't truly see who you are when everything is calm and easy. She sees it when things get tense, when plans change, when she's upset, when emotions rise. That's when your energy speaks louder than words. And the question is, do you bring fire to fire or do you bring water? Most men, when feeling disrespected or misunderstood, react. They raise their voices, try to explain, defend, or even threaten to walk away, just to feel in control. But control born from fear isn't strength. It's a mask, and it often makes things worse. A truly grounded man doesn't meet chaos with more chaos. He slows everything down, not to manipulate, but because he trusts himself. He knows he doesn't need to win every argument or have the last word to be at peace. Your calmness is not about suppressing emotions. It's about owning them. It's saying, yes, I feel this, but I choose not to let it own me. That kind of restraint isn't weakness. It's power, and women feel it. In fact, they often test it, not consciously, but emotionally. When she gets emotional or creates friction, she's often asking, can you still hold me, even when I can't hold myself? If your answer is panic or withdrawal, the trust cracks. But if your answer is presence, solid, quiet, unshaken, that's when she softens. That's when she feels safe. Being calm under pressure doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you respond with clarity, not noise. It means you know when to speak, and when silence is louder, it means you can say, I'm not okay with that, without needing to shout. And if the situation keeps crossing your line, you walk away, not out of anger, but because your peace is non-negotiable. True masculinity reveals itself when tension rises, not in how much force you use, but in how little you need. Not in how loud you are, but in how steady you remain. A calm man changes the room. He grounds the storm. He reminds everyone that control isn't something you grab. It's something you embody. And that kind of presence, especially in a world full of noise, isn't just rare, it's unforgettable. Principle 8. Silence, when timed right, is louder than any words. There are moments when saying less is the most powerful thing you can do. Not because you have nothing to say, but because your silence carries more truth than any explanation. In relationships, most men rush to fill every pause. When a woman becomes distant, vague, or inconsistent, they ask, explain, plead, trying to make sense of the emotional fog. But here's the truth. If someone wants to confuse you, they won't give you clarity, no matter how many times you ask. In those moments, silence is your strength. It says, I won't chase what avoids me. I won't fight for clarity where confusion is being used as control. You're not punishing her. You're choosing peace over chaos. And that choice is loud. Louder than arguments. Louder than demands. Louder than begging for answers that will never come clean. A man who knows his worth doesn't engage in emotional ping pong. He doesn't try to decode mixed signals. He doesn't argue with passive aggression. He simply pauses, observes, withdraws his energy from the noise. That silence is not cold. It's clear. It's not cruel. It's wise. It says, I won't shout to be heard by someone who has chosen to stop listening. Women notice this kind of silence, especially when they're used to men reacting. It interrupts the pattern. It forces reflection. Sometimes it's the only way for her to truly hear you, because words can be ignored, but presence removed cannot. Silence is not weakness. It's not a lack of courage. It's not giving up. It's choosing a different kind of communication, one that respects both yourself and the other person. And when used with intention, not as punishment, not as manipulation, but as a statement of self-worth, it becomes one of the most powerful tools a man can wield. Remember, you don't always need to explain your boundaries. Sometimes, you just need to hold them, quietly, firmly, without drama, and let your absence speak what your presence no longer can. Principle 9. Don't react to every emotion she shows. A woman's emotions are like waves, sometimes calm, sometimes crashing, sometimes unpredictable. But just because she feels something doesn't mean you have to mirror it. In fact, the more reactive you become to every rise and fall, the more unstable the relationship feels. A grounded man is not controlled by someone else's emotional weather. He's the anchor, not the leaf tossed by the wind. It's natural to want to fix things when she cries, to defend yourself when she gets angry, to explain everything when she withdraws. But often, these reactions don't help. Hey, escalate the storm. Because the truth is, many emotions don't need answers. They need space and presence. When she's upset, she may not want a solution. She wants to feel that you're not afraid of her intensity, that you won't crumble or fight back just because she's overwhelmed. Reacting to every shift in her mood makes her feel like she's leading the emotional dance. But when you stay centered, even when she can't, you offer her a gift, emotional safety. You show her that her fire won't burn you, that her tears don't make you run, that her silence doesn't control you. You remain calm, not to suppress, but to stabilize, not to dominate, but to hold space. And sometimes your strength is tested not in battles, but in your stillness, in the choice to breathe instead of burst, to listen instead of lecture, to say nothing, because nothing needs to be said. This doesn't mean you ignore your own feelings. It means you process them with maturity, not impulse. It means you respond with awareness, not reactivity. It means you don't let someone else's storm sweep you into the sea. A woman respects the man who doesn't flinch at her emotions, who doesn't need to match every mood, who can stand firm even when the ground feels shaky. That kind of man becomes her safe harbor, not her echo. Principle 10. Walking away is an act of self-respect. Walking away is not a sign of failure or weakness. It's the decision of a man who honors his own worth. Many men stay, despite being treated coldly, inconsistently, or even with quiet disrespect, believing that if they're just a bit more patient, kinder, or understanding, they can turn things around. But here's the hard truth. You cannot force someone to respect you by abandoning yourself. When you've already set boundaries, communicated clearly, remained calm and patient, and nothing changes, staying isn't perseverance anymore. It becomes self-erasure. It chips away at your dignity and peace. There's a point when leaving is not giving up. It's choosing yourself. Walking away at the right moment is the strongest response, one that needs no explanation. When she keeps being vague, canceling plans without reason, or making you question your own value, clinging only prolongs a toxic dynamic. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to argue. You don't need to justify anything. Just say calmly, I don't stay where respect is absent, and go, not to punish, but to protect your clarity and inner balance. This action doesn't just reclaim your power, it sends a message. You're a man who does not tolerate chaos. A man who knows when enough is never weak. When you walk away silently, without drama or regret, you show maturity and self-possession. Some may call you cold, accuse you of not giving a final chance, or try to reel you back with the same old games. Don't waver. A relationship that constantly demands you to strain, doubt yourself, or sacrifice your emotional stability is not love. It's slow self-destruction. Walking away doesn't mean you lost. You lose when you stay too long and let someone erode your self-worth piece by piece. The power of walking away lies in its calm and clarity. No threats, no outbursts, no desperate gestures, just the quiet removal of your energy from what no longer deserves it. That alone forces people to reflect. A man who leaves at the right time commands even the respect of those who once tested him, though it may come too late. Leaving is your way of saying, no one has the right to disturb your peace or shake your self-respect, no matter how attractive or sweet they once were. In the end, walking away is a declaration of your values. When you step out of a relationship that's draining your spirit, you protect your mind and redefine yourself as someone who cannot be manipulated. You don't need others to understand your reasons. You only need to stay true to yourself. In a world full of emotional games, the man who walks away at the right time doesn't just survive. He becomes the test no one dares to take lightly. Retreating with reason is the greatest victory, because it proves you rule your life and refuse to be held hostage by chaos. Conclusion. Being a man today isn't about perfection. It's not about always knowing what to say or having unshakable confidence. It's about knowing who you are, where your line is, and what you will or will not accept. These 10 principles aren't rules to control anyone else. They're reflections of a man who respects himself, quietly, firmly, and without compromise. In love, it's easy to lose your center, to chase affection, to trade your peace for temporary validation. But when a man chooses himself, not out of ego, but out of clarity, everything changes. He no longer seeks approval. He offers presence. He no longer begs to be chosen. He walks where he's valued. There will be moments when you'll feel tested, when silence feels cold, when boundaries feel lonely, when walking away feels like loss. But hold steady. The man you are becoming, the one who honors himself above all, is worth the discomfort. You don't need to impress. You need to embody. You don't need to win her over. You need to stand your ground. And when you do, the right people stay, the wrong ones drift, and you remain whole, steady, and free. Because the greatest respect always begins with how you treat yourself. If this message spoke to something deep in you, consider subscribing to Light of Wise Elders. We share reflections for men who choose clarity, calm, and quiet strength. Your journey deserves the right companions.